Hello everyone, and today we are back for another top 5 video, and we're going to be talking about the top 5 worst roamers in all of Loomian Legacy. Usually all of the roamers are really good, but there are some of the roamers which definitely doesn't stand out compared to the other ones. So with that out of the way, let's head right onto this top 5 roamers list. So, number 5 onto this list is actually very close, but I decided to go with Nimoray. There were a couple other Loomians that could have been in this spot, like Cosmere and Kaze, Elephage, and Akalos. But I decided to put Nimoray here, and while this thing does hit very hard and has really good range defense, it doesn't have a great offensive typing and not as much support. Yes, this thing does have Hypnotize and Peace of Mind, which is really scary, and it does have a healing move, but Air Light is just not a great offensive typing, and it really holds Nimoray back. If you can't hit the opposing Loomians really hard, it's going to be really hard to use Nimoray, mainly because it is used as a high-hitting ranged attacker. And while it does have Peace of Mind set up and Hypnotize, making it really scary, it is also weak to traps, it's weak to slapdown, and it does struggle in a lot of certain situations. It is immune to Earth and Spirit, though, so its defensive typing is hit or miss. But I find all some of the other Loomians, like Akalos with Brombu setup, Elephage with faster pivot and final ruse, more useful than Nimoray. And that's why Nimoray is on the list and not the other 3 Loomians that I talked about. Nimoray is still a very good roamer, but it unfortunately makes number 5 on the list. Number 4 onto this list is going to be Duskit. People might be shocked that Duskit isn't in the bottom 3, but there's actually a lot that Duskit has. Yes, its stats are average. It's merely an average roamer. But it does have a lot of different ways you can run it. You can run a ranged attacking one with Peace of Mind and Hypnotize. You can run a Raging Flame variant to stun melee attackers. You can run a melee Duskit with Outburst to hit ancient types. And not to mention, as a melee Duskit, you even have Pivot. You can run a secret ability Duskit with Oppress and Poison Barbs, and that can be extremely scary as well. And that's the reason why Duskit isn't lower. Yes, it doesn't really excel at any role, but it has a lot of different roles that it can play, and that's what makes Duskit really good. It also has priority to actually hit Ursul now, which is really good. Melee Duskits can now actually beat Ursul. And ranged Duskits can set up a lot and have good enough coverage to actually hit a lot of different Loomians. Yes, there are Loomians like Tyranix and Dragodine that does suck, and those Loomians definitely hold Duskit back. Not to mention there are a lot better roamers in Loomian Legacy compared to Duskit. But Duskit actually has a lot going for it, surprisingly, so that's why it's not in the bottom 3. Number 3 onto this list is going to be Gargolem-based form. This Loomian isn't bad. In fact, this Loomian might be better than Duskit, but the problem is there's kind of no niche Gargolem base form has. Mainly because all of the other Gargolem forms perform way better in certain situations. While yes, Gargolem base is probably the most balanced, it doesn't really excel in a role. It doesn't hit that hard. It hits hard, but it doesn't hit amazingly hard. Its bulk isn't really that good, and its speed is the same as Gargolem attacks, but even then, it still doesn't work out. Why would you use Gargolem base for speed creeping when you have Gargolem attack form that hits harder? I guess if you wanted a more bulkier version of Gargolem attack form with a little weaker attack, I guess this would be good. But I think just all the other Gargolem forms are better than Gargolem base, making Gargolem base kinda useless. There's kind of no niche Gargolem base has. And that's why it's actually lower than Duskit on the list, despite having amazing coverage, despite having the better move pool, and despite having the better defensive typing. The reason why it is only at number 3, though, is because it does have really good coverage. I mean, it does have all of Gargolem's moves, probably the most rally moves any Loomian has. So it does have a lot of different ways you can run Gargolem, but it doesn't excel on anything, and that's why Gargolem base is number 3. Number 2 onto this list is going to be Protagon. Protagon is such a mixed bag for me. On one hand, he can hit so many Loomians super effectively. He can even hit Charonic super effectively, which is huge. But he's exploited so much. You will never, and I mean never, get the ranged attack increase because every Loomian is TP trained specifically to give Protagon a melee attack. Not to mention, there are just a lot of Loomians that straight up wall Protagon. A lot of common Loomians like Chartiki and Meditoad. Those Loomians just straight up wall Protagon. And honestly, if you don't get the range attack boost, you don't hit hard enough. You don't even one-shot Charonics with a Metal Blast unless you get a +1 range. And while it is very scary with +1 range attack, there are a lot better wall breakers and late game cleaners that are better than Protagon, and they are better right away. Yes, Protagon is pretty fast, and it does have a decent range attack stat, but you're comparing Protagon to every other roamer in Loomian Legacy, and it doesn't hold up as well compared to any other roamer in the entire game. This is probably the roamer that has the most flaws out of any Loomian in Loomian Legacy, but it does have a lot of pros. And that's what keeps it from being the worst roamer on the list, at least compared to the #1 slot. The worst roamer in all of Loomian Legacy is Celestine. Celestine does have a couple good parts. Its bulk is reasonably decent. It does hit okayably hard. And it does have a couple support moves like, Disperse and Barb, so that's something. But Celestine does fall flat. Just like Nimoray, it doesn't have any offensive pressure at all. It hits less harder than Nimoray, while hitting way less Loomians than Nimoray. It doesn't have a great offensive typing at all. There are so many Loomians that can wall Celestine, and that's a big problem. Fire types wall you, plant types wall you, water types wall you. A bunch of different Loomians wall Celestine. And while Celestine does have a couple nice niches, like walling Charonics, which is nice, I am going to give it that. Having a Loomian that can wall Charonics is nice. But other than that, Celestine doesn't really have anything going for it, and it doesn't have any big pros that make it stand out neither. It doesn't have as many flaws as Protagon, but this thing doesn't have any serious highs, when every other roamer has something that it's amazing at, and that's why Celestine is the worst roamer in all of Loomian Legacy. And here it is, Celestine, the worst roamer in the entire game. I hope you guys enjoyed this top 5 worst roamers list. If there are a couple of roamers that I missed on the list, please tell me in the comments below. And keep in mind, these are only my opinion, and everyone's opinions will be different. That will be the end of the video, and I will see y'all all later. Bye-bye!